What is going on, guys? This is Daniel, and Game 5 of the finals was a very eventful game. We unfortunately had KD go down with an injury, but we also had a great game itself with the Warriors barely beating the Raptors by 1 point. And in this video, I want to dive into some of the X's and O's of the game, so let's get to it. I first want to focus on the Warriors' late game offense, which was excellent. So the Raptors go up 6 here with a little over 3 minutes left, and the Warriors had 3 plays in particular during this 3.5 minutes that caught my eye. And the first play was this, so Draymond brings it up, and Curry will set the ball screen. This is called an inverted pick and roll. And here it works well as the Raptors end up trapping Draymond, Curry pops for an open 3, Cousins adds a flare screen in for good measure, and Curry gets an open shot, though here he doesn't hit it. This play was nicely done with pace, and the other key on this play was the fact that Curry doesn't set an actual ball screen. If he set a screen and made contact with Leonard, the Raptors would easily be able to switch this screen. So notice how he slips out of the screen quick, not making contact with Leonard, and that's what causes some defensive miscommunication with 2 going to Draymond. This play has worked well for the Warriors at times throughout this finals, and part of the reason it's worked so well is because they run it so sparingly, maybe a few times a game at most. And here's an example of them running it in Game 2, where Curry ball screens for Draymond. This time, VanVleet is so concerned with Curry shooting that he doesn't stop Draymond on a switch or a hedge, which allows Draymond a lane to the basket, and he kicks it out for an open 3. So in Game 6, keep an eye open for this pick and roll with Draymond handling it and Curry setting the ball screen, and we'll see if the Raptors are in better position to defend it by hedging or switching. The next play was this gem after a timeout with the Warriors still down 6, and they have a bit of trouble getting into the set, but it turned out to be quite the play. So it starts with Draymond setting a ball screen for Curry, but just like the last play, Draymond is slipping the screen. He's not setting an actual screen. And this is important as it causes a bit of defensive miscommunication. The Raptors trap Curry when they might have wanted to switch this with Lowry guarding Draymond. So the slip is effective, getting 2 to the ball, and then Draymond will set a pin for Klay. And this works because now no one is guarding Draymond. So it's essentially a 2-on-1 with Draymond and Klay versus Kawhi. And here Draymond can utilize himself as a screener. Kawhi gets through the first screen well, but Draymond flips it and sets the ball screen for Klay. Lowry doesn't quite recover in time from the trap, and Klay hits a big 3. Just a very smart play using a slip to counter switching. Draymond sets a great screen, and that's Warriors basketball at its best. On to play number 3 with a minute and a half left, and on this play, Curry and Klay cross each other along the baseline. And what this can cause is miscommunication if the Raptors want to switch, or here when VanVleet sticks with Curry, what happens is VanVleet trails Curry a bit more than he'd like. This is still good defense, but Curry is now able to come off a screen from Cousins and hit a 3. This was a good play call because the Warriors had a good amount of success with this type of action throughout the game. This isn't the exact same set here, but it's the same concept. They get Curry on the move, he crosses paths with Klay, and here there is some miscommunication, which leaves Curry a bit open. This is from the first quarter, and a set like this is nice as it can be a bit unpredictable. So here Curry doesn't cross paths with Durant, but instead he sprints right into the pin down, and here he gets an open 3. So in Game 6, you can expect the Warriors to go back to sets like this to try to free up the Splash Brothers. Now, it should be noted that with 30 seconds left, they ran the same set they scored on a minute earlier, but this time the Raptors defended it much better. Here, when Klay and Curry cross, first notice how Danny Green is more physical with Klay, which disrupts the play. Curry tries to set a bit of a screen, but Danny Green holds Curry a bit. Then we see VanVleet get physical, and this physicality, legal or not, made Cousins think he needed to set an illegal screen to free up Curry. So, interesting stuff, and now let's move on to the Warriors pick and roll defense, which for the most part was ineffective, and this is something to keep an eye on in Game 6. In Game 5, they switched probably more than they should, especially with DeMarcus Cousins, and Cousins got roasted, and here Kawhi hits a 3 over Cousins. In the regular season, Cousins can hang on switches versus mediocre guards, but in the finals against Kawhi and Lowry when he's not fully healthy, it just isn't smart to have him switch against them. Now, it's not just Cousins who's been exploited on switches. Looney is a much quicker center, but he's also had trouble on switches versus Kawhi, and here Kawhi drives against him and draws a foul. VanVleet has crossed Looney up a few times this series, and here on a switch, VanVleet is able to drive to the basket against Looney, and he creates a corner three for Kawhi. In Game 5, the Raptors also did a great job of attacking the mismatch down low, not with a post-up, but on the offensive glass. So on the switch, Livingston now has to block out Ibaka, and here it doesn't work out as Ibaka gets the putback. On this play, we have the ball screen switch, which the Warriors were too willing to do, and then Siakam does a poor job of not getting it back to Kawhi, who has a clear mismatch against Cousins, but no worries, as Ibaka can take advantage of the mismatch he now has down low, and he gets the offensive rebound and 2 points. And this is how Ibaka made his imprint in Game 5. So the important question is, how should the Warriors defend pick and rolls in Game 6? In my opinion, they should switch less, though if they want to switch with Looney, that is a viable option. And also, it should be noted that in Game 4, they got destroyed when they trapped Kawhi, as the Raptors were able to take advantage of the 4-on-3 situation. What I think they should do is drop more, especially with Cousins in the pick and roll. So on this play, we see that Cousins is dropped a few feet below the level of the screen, and this gives him a chance to contain Lowry and force a difficult shot. Dropping forced some tough shots in Game 5, and here's an example of Looney dropping versus Leonard, and this is certainly a situation where Leonard can score against Looney, though here Leonard is forced into a rather difficult shot. While dropping may be the best option, the Raptors of course would be prepared to attack it, and here Lowry does a great job of attacking the drop and finding Gasol. If the Warriors do decide to drop more, it will put a greater emphasis on their on-ball defense. Here, for instance, Cousins is in a drop, and you may be thinking, oh, this is terrible defense by Cousins, and I would agree this wasn't good defense, but when we watch the play again, what I notice is the awful on-ball defense by Livingston as he lets Lowry get ahead of steam without even making any contact, and that put Cousins in a very difficult spot. Late in the game when Cousins got beat on a few switches, the Warriors did go to more of a drop, and on this play with 2 minutes left, it pays great dividends. Cousins contains with the drop, notice the great on-ball defense by Klay to fight through the screen, and then on the second pick and roll, the Raptors again don't have much going on. And in Game 6, if the Warriors do indeed decide to drop more in the pick and roll, one X factor could be the Gasol pick and pop. He typically likes to roll, but for example on this play we see that Gasol was open on the pop and Kawhi doesn't get it to him, and this is what the drop gives up, the pick and pop 3. This is a great potential counter for the Raptors if the Warriors do go to a drop and if they're having some success with it. And lastly, in Game 5, on 2 possessions, we saw another potential counter for the Warriors against the Raptors pick and roll, which is the pre-switch, and this is what I mean. So here, Cousins is guarding Siakam, and to take advantage of Cousins' pick and roll defense, Siakam goes to set the high ball screen. But notice what Cousins does. He calls out the pre-switch, where Draymond takes Siakam, and Cousins switches on to Gasol, and this allows Cousins to not be involved in the high pick and roll, and now the Warriors have the personnel to switch it on top. On this play, it doesn't end up mattering as Kawhi drives away from the screen and scores anyways, but this is another tactic the Warriors can do more often in Game 6 to keep their centers out of the pick and roll. Well, there you have it guys. Game 6 should be a good one, and make sure to keep an eye open for the Warriors offense and how they free up Curry and Klay and some of the plays they may use, and also how the Warriors defend that pick and roll, considering that in Game 5, switching didn't exactly work out. Well, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.